Hi guys, it's Hannah here. Hope you're doing okay, taking care, staying safe in these really difficult times. So today I thought I would really read the next chapter of the Lady Vanishes to you, chapter 6. And I'm filming 2 videos today, hence my hair. So I thought today I will go full 20s, full 1930s, which I love, and we'll do the 1930s finger waves in the hair, full on makeup with the red lips, 90s and 20s inspired dress, this lovely kind of 20s, a nod to the 20s robe, and some jewellery. And yeah, and then I thought for the next, so I'm doing 2 videos. So second video I'm doing today is talking about recommendations of comforting children's books that I've been reading at the moment that I thought you might like. So my hair will be fully done for that video, and that mentions no ethylene or white at all. And yeah, so for this video I haven't felt like filming for the past 3 or 4 days. Yeah, I just haven't really felt up to it. I've been suffering with a bit more anxiety and depression just around the whole situation, and my dad, who's in a really difficult position, he had a letter from the NHS saying he's got to stay at home for 12 weeks, and his specialist told us he wants us all to really not leave the house at all, because we obviously live with him, his family. But yeah, today I've just been really kind of being inspired by and just really kind of uplifted by reading a bit more about the bright young things. Hence why I decided to. I do like dressing in vintage outfits a lot, and I haven't done my hair so much like this, it's been longer. But I thought, yeah, why not do this for today? So the book I've been reading, one of them, so before we get into ethylene and white, I've been reading this lovely Bright Young Things. This is the exhibition that was at the National Portrait Gallery, which unfortunately has had to close. I never got a chance to see it, but I did buy the exhibition book a while ago. That was on there, looking at Cecil Beaton, his photography of the group. And there's some incredible, so look at that for an outfit. So there's some incredible photography in here. So I've been giving this a read and just being more inspired. So I've kind of loved the Bright Young Things, well, not kind of, I have, since I was in my early 20s. I discovered Stephen Fry's film Bright Young Things. I read Stephen Tennant's biography. I was just obsessed with Stephen Tennant. I love Cecil Beaton's photography. I really like Nancy Mitford's writing, Daphne du Maurier. And yeah, I just really fell in love with the era. I fell in love with the fashion. I started buying quite a few reproduction and original 20s and 30s clothes and wearing them. I love silent films. I love Buster Keaton particularly, and Louise Brooks. And if you follow me on Instagram, so Hannah_Squire, I put up a photo the other day of when in my early 20s I cut off all my hair. Had it for quite a while, that hairstyle. Cut off all my hair into a flapper bob, had a fringe, dyed my hair black. I really wanted to be Louise Brooks, and still love her, still love Pandora's Box and Diary of a Lost Girl and her other films. So yeah, and I thought today I would do something a bit different, and I would go full 20s, 30s as if I'm going to a full, incredible evening party. So yeah, hence why I'm dressed like this. And before I get into reading the next chapter, I thought I would just show you, so in my last video, which wasn't a chapter, I showed you all of my 14, my ethylene and white hardbacks. So do check out that last video if you want to see I showed you all of them. And in this one, I thought I'd show you my original or early edition ethylene and white paperback. So not my modern ones, I have a lot of modern ones, but we'll just focus on the 4 paperbacks, and then we'll get straight into reading the next chapter. So the first one I was going to show you is a little bit different because this is a penguin. I love these penguin books, these penguin paperbacks. So this was published in the 1950s. So as I've mentioned in previous videos, when I've been reading The Will Spins To, also known as Lady Vanishes, this came out in 1936, but this paperback came out in the 50s. It's got that lovely photograph of Ethelina White on the back again, and our biography of her. And the reason that Penguin brought this out, which I can read you on the front cover, is, so this is one of 10 books to appear together in Penguin to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Colin's Crime Club. A list of the others is on the inside back cover. So as I said, Ethelina White was incredibly famous in the 30s and 40s, and this really shows as one of her books was picked as one of the 10 that Penguin decided to reprint for this 25th anniversary of the Crime Club. Unfortunately, as I said before, it's a shame that not many people really seem to know her. I mean, or they know the Lady Vanishes Hitchcock film, but they don't really know who wrote it, that it was her that wrote it. And I thought I'd read, so in the back cover there's just a few more of the books that Penguin also produced this anniversary. As You'd Expect, an Agatha Christie, Murder in Mesopotamia, A Question of Proof, which sounds interesting, by Nicholas Blake, and a writer that I've heard a bit about and really want to read one of her books, so I'm going to pronounce her name well. Elizabeth Ferrars, spelled Ferrars, Murder in Time. And of course The Wheel Spins by Ethelina White is one of the 10. So that's one of the paperbacks I have. I've shown you this in previous videos, so this is the first time he died. This is my favourite colour, this bright pink, and I found this Collins edition. And what I love about these, which I've shown you before, is these incredible adverts on the back of these 1930s books. So this is for Julicia, which is just a credible name, Julicia Tonic Hair Cream. Really lovely advert. So that's the first time he died. Also an advert on the back is The Man Who Loved Lions. So this is a crime club paperback, and lots of these all have the same cover, but what I much prefer is the beautiful advert on the back with this lady with incredible hair. And this is for Bravington rings. So different choice of rings, one for £14, one for £12, one for £16. Seems like a bargain. The Cash Jewellers for over 100 years, with shops in King's Cross, Fleet Street, Trafalgar Square, Richard Street, Brompton Road. So it's a lovely advert on the back. And what I found really poignant about this as well, so it's on the front cover, there's an advert which is Why Worry, which is by the Pellman Institute, 250 Norfolk Mansions, Wigmore Street. It's called Why Worry because they're offering a course, The Science of Success. So I thought I'd just read you the first bit, because at this moment, with obviously so much worry and fret, and it's such a difficult time, that just reading, when I opened this book earlier today and was like, oh yes, because when I haven't read this paperback version in a while, but I remembered this. Sorry. Worry uses an immense amount of vital force. People who worry not only use up their energy during the day by worrying, but they rob themselves of that greatest of all restorative, sleep. So yeah, so that's an advert for the Pellman Institute, Science of Success. On the inside cover as well. I've shown you the first time he died. And then the paperback I'm going to be reading from today, as in my other videos. So if you haven't watched my other videos, it would make more sense to watch and listen to those chapters before just diving in straight to chapter 6 of this novel. So this is The Lady Vanishes. So The Wheel Spins is the original name for it. So obviously I have the Wheel Spins paperback, Penguin I just showed you. I've got the hardback here. I've got this, and I also have a modern paperback as well. Can you tell I'm obsessed? But I love this movie tie-in. Had no idea before that movie tie-ins came so early in the 30s, with that incredible still on the back as well from the film. So yes, I will be reading from this today. Yeah, my mum, I really do. I try and listen to my mum as much as I can, pointed out to me that yeah, I ended on a cliffhanger with Iris getting hit over the head, and I hadn't read another chapter in a while, so I really should get back to it. So we are going to read chapter 6. So Iris has just been hit over the head on the train platform, and this chapter is called The Waiting Room. So when Iris became conscious, her sight returned, at first in patches. She saw sections of faces floating in the air. It seemed the same face, sallow skinned with black eyes and bad teeth. Gradually she realised that she was lying on a bench in a dark kind of shed, while a ring of women surrounded her. They were of peasant type, with a racial resemblance accentuated by intermarriage. They stared down her with indifferent apathy, as though she were some street spectacle, a dying animal, or a man in a fit. There was no trace of compassion in their blank faces, no glint of curiosity in their dull gaze. In their complete detachment, they seemed devoid of the instincts of human humanity. "Where am I?" she asked wildly. A woman in a black overall suddenly broke into guttural speech which conveyed no iota of meaning to Iris. She listened with the same helpless panic which had shaken her yesterday in the gorge. Actually, the woman's face was so close that you could see the pits in her skin and the hairs sprouting inside her nostrils. Yet her fundamental cleavage was so complete that they might have been standing on different planets. She wanted someone to lighten her darkness, to raise the veil which baffled and blinded her. Something had happened to her of which she had no knowledge. Her need was beyond the scope of crude pantomime. Only such lucid explanation could clear the confusion of her senses. In that moment she thought of the people at the hotel, for whom she practically ran away. Now she felt she would give years of her life to see the strong, saintly face of the clergyman looking down at her, or meet the kind eyes of his wife. In an effort to grip reality, she looked around her. The place was vaguely familiar, with dark wooden walls and a sanded floor which served as a communal spittoon. A bar of dusty sunlight slanting through a narrow window glinted on thick glasses stacked upon a shelf and a sheaf of fluttering handbills. She raised her head higher and felt a throb of dull pain, followed by a rush of dizziness. For a moment she thought she was going to be sick, but the next second nausea was overpowered by a shock of memory. This was the waiting room at the station. She had lingered here only yesterday with the crowd as it gulped down a final drink. Like jolting trucks banging through her brain, her thoughts were linked together by the connecting sequence of the railway. She remembered sitting on the platform in the sunshine while she waited for a train. Her heart began to knock violently. She was on her way back to England, yet she had not the least idea as to what had happened after her blackout, or how long ago it had occurred. The express might have come and gone, leaving her behind. In her overwrought state, the idea seemed the ultimate catastrophe. Her head swam again, and she had to wait for a mist to clear from her eyes before she could reach the figures on her tiny wristwatch. Before she could read the figures on her tiny wristwatch. To her joy, she discovered that she had still 25 minutes in which to pull herself together before her journey. What happened to me, she wondered. What made me pass out? Was I attacked? Closing her eyes, she tried desperately to clear her brain, but her last conscious moment held only a memory of blue sky and grass-green lake, viewed as though through a crystal. Suddenly she remembered her bag and groped to find it. To her dismay, it was not beside her, nor could she see it anywhere on the bench. Her suitcase lay on the floor, and her hat had been placed on top of it, as though to prove the limit of her possessions. "My bag!" she screamed, wild-eyed with panic. "Where's my bag?" It held not only her money and tickets, but her passport. Without it, it was impossible for her to continue her journey. Even if she boarded the train penniless, she would be turned back at the first frontier. The thought drove her frantic. She felt sure that these staring women had combined to rob her when she was helpless and at their mercy. When she sprang from the bench, they pulled her down again. The blood rushed to her head, and she resisted them fiercely. As she struggled, she was conscious of a whirl of confusion, of throbbing pain, rising voices, and lights flashing behind her eyes. There were breathless, panting noises, as an undercurrent to a strange rushing sound, as though an imprisoned fountain had suddenly burst through the ground. In spite of her efforts, the woman in the black pinafore dragged her down again, while a fat girl in a bursting bodice held a glass to her lips. When she refused to swallow, they treated her like a child, tilting her chin and pouring the spirit down her throat. It made her cough and gasp until her head seemed to be swelling with pain. Terrified by this threat of another attack, she relaxed in helpless misery. Her instinct warned her that if she grew excited at any moment, the walls might rock like the snow mountains as a prelude to total extinction. Next time she might not wake up. Besides, she dare not risk being ill in the village alone and so far away from her friends. If she returned to the hotel, she could enlist the financial help of the English visitors, while doubtless another passport could be procured, but it meant delay. In addition, these people were all strangers to her, whose holiday was nearly ended. In another day they would be gone, while she might be stranded there indefinitely, exposed to indifference and even neglect. The hotel, too, was closing down almost immediately. "I mustn't be ill," thought Iris. "I must get away at once while there is still time." She felt sure that if she could board the train, the mere knowledge that she was rolling mile by mile back to civilization would brace her to hold out until she reached some familiar place. She thought of, if you watched the video of me reading, I think the last chapter, going for a walk just outside the village, I couldn't pronounce this place then. I apologise. I've never actually heard of it before, and I should actually visit after this, when we can again travel to see how you spell it. Say it. She thought of Basel, B-A-S-L-E, apologies, on the milky jade Rhine, with its excellent hotels where English was spoken and where she could be ill intelligibly and with dignity. Everything hung upon the catching of this train. The issue at stake made her suddenly desperate to find her bag. She was struggling to rise again when she became conscious that someone was trying to establish contact with her. It was an old man in a dirty blouse with a gnarled elfin face, brown and lined as a scar on a tree trunk from which a branch had been lopped. He kept taking off his greasy hat and pointing first upwards and then to her head. All at once she grasped his meaning. He was telling her that while she sat on the platform she had been attacked with sunstroke. The explanation was a great relief because she was both frightened and baffled by the mystery of her illness. She rarely ailed and had never fainted before. Besides, it had given her proof that in spite of her own misgiving, the channels were not entirely blocked, provided the issues were not too involved. Although she felt sick with anxiety about her train, she managed to smile faintly at the porter. As though he had been waiting for some sign of encouragement, he thrust his hand into the neck of his dirty blouse and drew out her bag. With a cry she snatched it from him. Remembering the crowd on the platform, she had no hope of finding her money, but there was a faint chance that her passport had not been stolen. She tore at the zip fastener with shaking hands to find, to her utter amazement, that the contents were intact. Tickets, money, passport, even a receipted hotel bill was still there. She had grossly maligned the native honesty, and she hastened to make amends. Here at last was a situation she understood. As usual, someone had come to her rescue, true to the tradition of the protective square in her palm. Her part, which was merely to overpay for services rendered, was easy. The woman received their share of the windfall with stolid faces. Apparently they were too stunned with astonishment to show excitement or gratitude. The old porter, on the other hand, beamed triumphantly and gripped Iris's suitcase to show that he too had grasped the situation. In spite of her resistance to it, the raw spirit, together with her change of circumstance, had revived Iris considerably. She felt practically restored again and mistress of herself as she showed her ticket to the porter. The effect on him was electric. He yammered with excitement as he grabbed her arm and rushed with her to the door. Directly they had passed through it, Iris understood the origin of the curious pervading noise which had helped to complicate her nightmare. It was the gush of steam escaping from an engine. While she had let the precious minutes slip by, the express had entered the station. Now it was on the point of departure. The platform was a scene of confusion. Doors were being slammed, people were shouting farewells and crowding before the carriages. An official waved a flag and the whistle shrilled. They were 1 minute too late. Iris realised the fact that she was beaten just as the porter, metaphorically, snatched at the psychological moment and was swung away with it on its flight. He took advantage of the brief interval between the first jerk of the engine and the revolution of the wheels to charge the crowd like an aged tiger. There was still strength and agility in his sinewy old frame to enable him to reach the nearest carriage and wrench open the door. His entrance was disputed by a majestic lady in black. She was a personage to whom, as a peasant, his bones instinctively cringed. On the other hand, his patron had paid him a sum far in excess of what he earned in tips during the whole of a brief season. Therefore, his patron must have her place. Ducking into the august lady's arm, he hurled Iris's suitcase into the compartment and dragged her inside after it. The carriage was moving when he scrambled out to fall in a heap on the platform. He was unhurt, however, for when she looked back to wave her thanks, he grinned at her like a toothless gnome. Already he was yards behind. The station slid by, and the lake began to lap against the piles of the rough landing stage. It rolled past the window in a sheet of emerald, ruffled by the breeze and burnished by the sun. As the train swung round the curve of the rails to the cutting in the rocks, Iris looked back for a last view of the village, a fantastic huddle of coloured toy buildings perched on the green shelf of the valley. So that is the end of chapter 6. Iris has got on the train, and chapter 7 is called Passengers, which I will read soon. So what I love about Evelina White, and you really get from that chapter, is that idea of suspense and that kind of building of that tension. And you can also tell, thanks very much to that porter she got on that train, but there's definitely someone or some people that really do not want Iris on the train, and we'll find the reason out later as we carry on reading the book. So yeah, I'm really enjoying reading it. I will carry on reading it. Yeah, it's one of my favourite books, I said before. And yeah, I'm going to go now, and in very much in the 20s and 1930s spirit. I have a record player, a HMV old record player. I'm going to go listen to some Al Bowley. I'm going to go practice my dancing. So up until recently, I've been going to dance lessons for Charleston and for swing as well, which I really love. So I'm going to go practice some of that, listen to my radio, listen to some big band 1930s music. I'm going to go have a cocktail, because why not? Of course you have to have a cocktail at a 20s or 30s party. I'm going to go eat some dark chocolate, just eat decadently. yeah, go have some fun. And yeah, I really hope you liked this video. Feeling much better today, really kind of channeling that 2030s spirit that I love so much. And I've realised I really should do my hair more 30s more often. So yeah, I hope you're having a good weekend. Yeah, as well as you can, you're looking after each other. And yeah, I will be back filming the book about my children's books recommendations later today. And I will speak to you soon, guys. Take care. Bye. Bye.